very interesting topic, getting closer to the Buddha. That is the topic. And let us enjoy. So Bhanteji,
Thank you, Venerable, for that introduction. I always find it interesting with people, especially in traditional Asian countries. They're at the cinema or the theatre, they want to be at the front. They go to a Dhamma sermon, they always want to be as far back as possible. I don't know why that is. Anyway, Ananda has asked me to talk about getting close to the Buddha. That's what I will. And my Christian friends tell me they feel right next to them. They tell me that he talks to them and sometimes they talk to him in prayer. I don't think you can get much closer than that. Unfortunately, in the case of Buddhism, we would say he is not accessible. After he passed away, he attained full enlightenment and don't know Nirvana is there or over here. And there are certainly Buddhists who pray to the Buddha. Somehow they think and hear. But that doesn't accord with anything the Buddha himself said. So some religions, people could be quite close to the God that they worship. Buddha wasn't a God, and as an enlightened being, simply it's not possible to pray to or get near him where you I'm near Venerable. So what does it mean to be near the Buddha? Well, some of you, a lot of you I hope, are upasikas, upasikas. Can anybody tell me what that word actually means? And we could say an upasika means a disciple, follower. The actual meaning of the word itself, know what it means. I didn't think so. It actually means sit near. Exact meaning of it. Now, in the Upanishads, Hindu texts, they have exactly the same meaning. It means to sit near, be close to. But in the Upanishads, in Hindu religion, what it meant was close to the Guru, so you can hear what he says, but others can't hear, because the Upanishadic teaching is secret, only meant for a very small number of people. If you were initiated by the Guru, he shared his Dhamma with you, but other people were not to know it. It has word upasaka related to word anashad. Means exactly the same thing. It means to sit near, but it means to sit near, so close to the Buddha, so that you know what he says. Nothing to do with secrecy. The idea that the Dhamma should be secret, kept only a small number of people, certainly something that Buddha did not appreciate. So, as disciples, those of you who are upasakas or upasikas, what does it mean for you? You can't physically sit near the Buddha anymore because he's not around. Well, in another place, there's a story that a particular monk, Bakkali, be ill, very ill, and he asked one of his friends to go to and ask the Buddha to come and visit him. And so when the Buddha received that request, he went to visit this sick monk. And as he approached, the monk tried to get out of bed and stand up out of respect for the Buddha. The Buddha told him, don't worry about that. Sit here. And then he asked, luckily, is it getting better, or is it getting worse, or is it the same? He asked the patient various sorts of things that you would ask a friend if he was in hospital and you went to visit him. How are things? That's pretty much what the Buddha said. And then Vakali said, well, unfortunately, it's getting worse. It's not getting better. I think I might not live long. So the Buddha said, well, is there anything on your mind that you feel bad about? And he said, the only thing I feel bad about is that I haven't been able to see, haven't been able to be near you. Buddha's response to that comment is the interesting one. The exact translation of his words is, why do you want to see this smelly body? Why do you want to see this stinking body? Interesting, isn't it? Up there we have a relic of that stinking body. Anyway, that's what the Buddha said. Why do you see my stinking body? Mine isn't stinking. But the Buddha described his body as smelly. Now that doesn't mean that the Buddha didn't have a shower or a bath. What he meant was all bodies exude unpleasant things all of the time. And unless you wash them regularly, they certainly do stink. In other words, the Buddha's body was just rupa, immaterial. Said, why do you want to see that for? Those who see me, the Dhamma, see the Dhamma. So I find those two comments very interesting. If you see the Dhamma, you see me. Meaning, understand Dhamma, you will see me, not in a sense with visual eye, but you'll see everything that's important about me. And what's important about me, not my rupa, it's about Dhamma I have realized and I do. And so, from one point of view, you could say that if Dhamma, and that could be possible, that in some sense you are near. I think that that is that somebody calls themselves an upasika doesn't only sit near some symbolic sense, but actually see, because the Buddha is, in a sense, Dhamma. Now that raises an interesting question. In my nearly 50 years, I have always been astonished, sometimes very saddened, at how little Dhamma people who call themselves Buddhists know. Occasionally, very, very rarely, I meet a disciple, person who's got quite a good knowledge of the Buddha, of the Dhamma. But all too often, I meet people, they know absolutely nothing. They can chant, they know what the 5 precepts mean, they may have a vague idea of what karma is, but not much else. So if it's true that if you see the Dhamma, you see the Buddha, then the opposite must be true. If you don't know the Dhamma, you do not know, and you cannot be near the Buddha. Now, why this situation has arisen, I don't know. But I think it's a very sad situation, because you can't practice the Dhamma if you don't know it. Now, nearly all the disciples I know practice certain aspects of the Dhamma. They bow in the right way, they offer flowers in the right way, they respect the Sangha in the right way. But that's only a very, very small part of the Dhamma, and probably the least important part. There's a story in the Maha Bodhi Sutta. The Maha Bodhi Sutta is the longest discourse in the Tripitaka, and it is a detailed description of the last 12 months of the Buddha's life, from the time he left Rajagaha to the time he got to Kushinara and passed away. And during that journey, when he was in Vaishali, during the rainy season, he became very ill. He had diarrhea. And his disciples were really very deeply worried. And during that time, it says, when he was very sick, Mara approached him and said, "Why are you hanging around here in samsara? Now's a good time to die. You're sick, you're old, you've got diarrhea, pass away." And I think what the Buddha said was one of the most important things he ever said, one of the most important things that he ever disclosed to all his disciples, monks and nuns, lay men and lay women. And I think if ever I have a temple, I'm going to have those words nailed on the front door. And what he said was to Mara, he said, "I will not die until the monks and the nuns and the lay men and the lay women too, the monks and the nuns and the lay men and the lay women, are deeply learned in the Dhamma, that they know the Dhamma well, that they practice it fully, that they know it well enough that they can share it with others, that they know it so well that when they hear people give a distorted understanding of the Dhamma, or when people criticize the Dhamma, they can defend the Dhamma. They can show that person that what you say, your criticism of the Dhamma, is not factual. I will not pass away until all my disciples know the Dhamma that well. That's a pretty high order. It is very clear that the Buddha wanted all of his disciples to know the Dhamma very well. Now, as I said, my experience is that that is not the case. And I wonder why that is. Yesterday, I went to visit Shravanabelagola. That's a fantastic place. I really like that. Isn't it wonderful? Where else in the world can you go to a religious place and there's a man walking around with no clothes on? Only in India. Only in India. Wow. I really wanted to take a picture of that Nigantha and send it to my friends in Singapore and say, "Come to India and see all the monks with no clothes on." He didn't even have a pair of underpants on. But apart from that, it's a very interesting place. It's very beautiful. It's on the top of this hill. And there were Jain pilgrims coming from, I was talking to some were from Kerala, some were from Maharashtra, some were from Gujarat. And they were all very respectful, very curious to know what I was. And when I told them that I was a Buddhist, they smiled and they said, all paths are the same. I don't believe that. But I didn't want, they were so friendly and respectful and kind. I didn't say anything. I said, yeah, all paths are the same. They were so nice. And the other thing about it was, I've been to Hindu temples, God, they're so noisy. I know why in ancient times the Swamis went and lived in the forest, because they couldn't take the noise in the temples. These temples are so noisy. I think in India, the what do you call it, the volume, there's only 2 volumes, on full or off. Screeching Hindi, oh my God, the noise. And then every Jain temple I've been in, it was peaceful and calm and clean and orderly, and that's what it was like in Shravanabelagola. There were lots of people, but it was very peaceful. It was such a nice place. I like Jainism, and I like Jain people. I've always had very good experiences with Jain people. So, what's this got to seeing the Buddha? Well, about 800-900 years ago, Buddhism disappeared in India. And you'll hear all sorts of theories as why that happened. Or they were all destroyed by the Muslims. It's not true. All sorts of theories. Now, if it was in fact the Muslims who destroyed it, how come they didn't destroy the Jains? Because Jainism survived. Buddhism died out. 100 years ago, other than in the Himalayan areas, there was no Buddhism in India, or virtually nothing. Change only started to happen when Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar announced that he was going to become a Buddhist. That was the beginning. Somewhat earlier, there were attempts by Sri Lankan monks to revive Buddhism, and there was a little bit. A few thousand people, 3 or 4 temples, but not very much. Now, fortunately, the Dhamma is becoming more easily available and more well known. But it is still a very minor religion in the home that it originally started in. So why did Buddhism die out and Jainism didn't? And even if the Muslims burnt down monasteries, and they certainly did do that, they burnt down Jain temples also. Why did Jainism, which is similar to Buddhism in many ways, why did it survive and the Dhamma did not? Well, I've got a theory. In Jainism, you have the Nigantha Sangha. I don't know what they call it. They have monks, they have nuns, and they have lay people. And I happen to know that their lay people are not very well versed in their religion either. However, Jainism has got something that Buddhism never had. It has a monastic community, monks and nuns, and it has a lay community. But in between, it has teachers who are 50% laity, 50% monastic. I saw some in Shravanabelagola. The monks wear no clothes. This in between, half laity, half monks, or nuns, they wear orange, fairly similar to what Buddhist monks wear, and a turban. And I noticed they were doing the puja, they were doing the blessing. And traditionally, they are well educated in the Dhamma, in their Dhamma. They act in areas that the Jain monks do not. For example, Jain monks, like Buddhist monks, don't do weddings. They don't do marriages. Jains are the same. But their half laity, they do that. They have studied the scriptures. So I think that this is what happened. When there were huge political changes in India and the introduction of a new religion, Islam, and a lot of political turmoil, Jain monks pretty much disappeared. But their lay teachers survived because they weren't monks. And they kept the knowledge of the Dhamma alive. They guided the lay people. In the case of Buddhism, when the monasteries were burnt down or closed down or no longer got support from the king, the monks disappeared and the lay people had no guidance. Like now, most of them really didn't know the Dhamma, and so they just drifted into Hinduism. That's my theory. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's my theory. And this comes down to something. If you are an upasaka or an upasaka, you should make an effort to know the Dhamma well. Nowadays, because of changes in work, people, even here in India, have more free time than they ever had before. Probably most of you are literate. I think that there are many good books available in English and Kannada and other languages. You all know that the founder of this monastery, Venerable Buddharakkhita, wrote numerous books, including textbooks on the Dhamma. Now I know that because I used to read them. And I know that because I've been to the library here and the bookshop. Those books are available. My hope is that here and in every Buddhist community in India, people will make more of an effort to know the Dhamma in the way that the Buddha hoped when he addressed Mara. I will not die, I will not disappear until the monks and the nuns, the laymen and the laywomen know the Dhamma thoroughly. They become familiar with it. Maybe they can chant it even. That they can share it with others. And that includes their children. And that when people distort the Dhamma, they can correct it. But the first part of what the Buddha said is interesting. I will not die. So I take that to mean for as long as all Buddhists, monks and nuns and laymen and laywomen know the Dhamma, you will still see the Buddha. That is, he won't die. He will still be, in some sense, alive and available. That when you read his words in your language, when you read his words in your language, you are near him. You have not a distance between you and him. You are, in a sense, in the presence of the Buddha. To hear what the Buddha said, to read what he said, to understand what he said, and to practice what he said, you are near the Buddha. Now, the monastic community does its best in one way or another to transmit the Dhamma. But ultimately, we say in English, you can take the donkey to the water, but you can't make him drink. Well, when I was in Singapore, I took the donkey to the water, and believe me, I made it drink. That's up to you. You have the time, you have the energy, hopefully you have the motivation. I look at these women here. They look so lovely in those of with their traditional dress. And I don't know the situation, but I suspect very strongly that they're really good at cooking and cleaning, but they don't know any Dhamma. And I suspect nobody encourages them to know it. That, if I'm right, that situation should change. And as young women, if nobody does encourage you to do that, you're young, intelligent, educated women, do it yourself. You know what these guys are like? They're quite happy that you stay in these ones, you know? They're quite happy that you just stay in the kitchen and cook all that nice food. There's more to being a Buddhist than cooking, although that's important. Anyway, that's my idea of how to be near the Buddha. Now, I consider myself very fortunate in that I've been near the Buddha in two ways. I have always had a passion, a real interest in reading the Buddha's words, in listening to them. And the other thing is, I've been to all the places where the Buddha lived. How much time have we got? Another 12 minutes. Is that all? Oh, lunchtime. Oh, we better finish in that case. So when I first went to India, I thought, wow, this is the place where the Buddha lived. So I wanted to see everything. And so in about 1980, I was living in Sri Lanka at that time, but I came to India, and I walked from Buddha Gaya to Varanasi and Isipatana with no sandals, with no money, and only with a begging bowl, an umbrella, and a bag. What I wanted to do was know what it would have been like for the Buddha to do that. And so I did it. I must have been crazy. You do crazy things like that when you're young. Then a few months later, I walked from Buddha Gaya to Rajagir, or Rajagaha. Now, if you've been to Buddha Gaya and you go to Rajagir, you'll know there's a line of mountains, quite high mountains. I walked all the way, same, no money, no sandals, and begging for my food the whole way. I stayed there for a week, and then I walked back again on the other side of the mountains. First time on the south side of the mountains, second time on the north side of the mountains. And when I got back, I went and I stayed in the Thai temple. And the Thai monk said to me, "Where have you come from?" I said, "I've come from Rajagir." He said, "There's no bus. How did you get here?" He said, I walked. I said, "What? You walked?" He didn't believe me. He said, "Where'd you get your food?" I said, "I begged." "You begged? What would have happened if they didn't give you something?" And I thought that was the whole purpose of Pindapata. That, you take your chances. Sometimes you get something good to eat, sometimes you get nothing. I thought that was the whole purpose of it, to accept whatever you're given. Not in that Thai monastery. They have a really good dana. The idea of going Pindapata and not getting anything, Omi Tobo, they couldn't believe it. And he thought I was crazy. And like I said, maybe I was. And then the next year, I walked from Rajgir to Kushinara. And the reason I did that was I wanted to get close to the Buddha, to see what it would have been like in his time. To take a chance, to live rough. And I tell you something, never once was I refused food. Never once. Now, I'm not saying that food was always very nice. Sometimes it was absolutely awful. Until that time, I'd never seen a black banana. You know, a banana that's so old, it's But now I look back on that, and I'm very glad I did it. It was one of the highlights of my life. So I've been, in a sense, close to the Buddha in two ways. And that is the thing that gives me energy to keep on learning, studying, practicing, and when I have the ability, teaching the Dhamma. And with that, I will finish, and I hope maybe some of the things I've said you have found interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bhanteji. Bhante is asking, are you comfortable or better to sit?
Listen, I've eaten black bananas.
So it's okay. So, very, very important points Bhanteji has mentioned. One is about why Jainism survived and why not Buddhism, and Bhante's theory is about in between monastics and lay people, there were people to do this religious things and also to teach and like that. That is what we are now doing as Dhammacharis. Now we have a group of people, we call them Dhammacharis, and they are the ones who are conducting some ceremonies and weddings and like that. And in the absence of monks, they are managing many things. But as Bhanteji said, Upasaka or Upasika, Asaka, Asana, navella use martivalla, that word asana, sitting, play, cloth or sitting cushion, asana idella nimdu. Asanad mele kutkoloru, asaka. One who sits on asana is asaka. Upa asaka is hattira, nearby, close by. One who sits closer. So Bhanteji told that you are upasaka, upasika means closer, closer, closer to the Buddha. That means learning. Second point Bhante emphasizes, learn Dhamma. Learning Dhamma. So many of you are coming regularly, and some of you have interest and you have read the books and learned. Some of you listen on Sundays and you are happy. But better you also learn. As Bhante said, if somebody tells wrong about Buddha Dhamma or wrong teachings, nowadays lot of wrong things are going on. Fake people are also claiming to be Buddhist teachers and teaching. So you should know, oh, this is correct Dhamma. This is according to the Tripitaka. And this is not the correct Dhamma. To that level, you have to reach. Learn the Dhamma along with your practice. So that, because Dhamma is needed for whom? For you only. It is our protection. No? That is what protects us. Our mind, our wisdom, our understanding from our understanding to our conduct, our thinking, everything, our belief, our commitment, our goal of life, everything is based on that. So that is so fundamental. They has emphasized, and wonderful experiences of walking in these holy places. So it's a very, very valuable experience, I must say. Because of that, today Bhanteji is able to write these books which are so valuable. And if you travel to these holy places, or if you don't travel, even then, read them. It feels that you are traveling there. So we are very grateful to you, Bhanteji. And since we have another 4 minutes, one question we can take. Anybody has question? Oh. Okay, since I have announced already, one question we can take. Then there is a beautiful ceremony to name a baby today. Another prashna? Yes. ಬರ್ತೀರಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಪ್ಪ ಎದ್ದೇಳಿ ಎದ್ದಿದ್ದೆ.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Lokapriya. If you compare Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, the similarities are so common. It's very difficult, and I think the difference is so sublime that it's difficult for lay people like us to actually differentiate. So, how do we go so deep that find out the difference? And even if the difference is there, how does it really matter?
Well, I'm not sure that I would agree with you. In fact, I'm certain that I don't agree with you. I think one of the problems is the definition of Hinduism. It's quite easy to define, say, Christianity. There's one book. There's one particular doctrine. It's true that there are different churches, but they're basically the same, small differences. Islam, once again, there's two major sects of Islam. They have one book. They don't get along very well together, these two groups. Nonetheless, to an outsider, it's very clear that they're the same religion. Hinduism, well, that's very different. There are hundreds of texts. There are the Dhamma Sutras, there's the Mahabharata, there's the Ramayana, there are the Vedas, there are the Upanishads, there are the Dhamma Shastras, there are the Puranas. They're all teaching different things. A book I wrote recently, I actually read the 13 principal Upanishads. There are certain ideas that you find in all of them. And there are ideas that completely contradict each other. Some people worship Hanuman, some people worship Shiva, some people worship hundreds of gods. Now you'll meet a Hindu who will say, yes, but they're all different aspects of the same God. Do you know what the legal definition in India of a Hindu is? Now, you need to know, because in law, things like the law of inheritance, the law of adoption, the law of wills, etc., they are different in Hinduism, Christianity, Sikhism, and Islam. So, for legal reasons, you need a legal definition of a Hindu or of Hinduism. Do you happen to know what it is? I do. Do you know how Hinduism or a Hindu is identified in law. Anybody born in India or of Indian origin who is not a Muslim, a Christian, a Jain, a Buddhist, or a Sikh. So you can believe in one God and you can be a Hindu. You can believe in 100 gods and be a Hindu. You can believe that a monkey, Hanuman, is a god and you're a Hindu. You can actually believe in no God. Sankhya, which is one of the 7 schools of Hinduism, is atheistic. So you see the problem? Now you mentioned to me that there are similarities. There certainly are in some aspects of Hinduism or some sects of Hinduism. And in others, they have no relationship whatsoever. Now, I could go on and talk about some of the important differences. Just very briefly, I'll pick one. Caste. Now, don't think that this isn't fundamental to Hinduism. It is found in every major Hindu scripture. Okay? Now, there have been great saints who rejected the idea of caste. That's true. But they never made any difference to it. It's still alive and well. This country has to have specific laws to try to protect people of different castes. Why? Because caste is still alive and well. It's very, very strong. Now, it so happens that some Buddhists actually practice caste. But in doing that, they have betrayed the high ideals of the Buddha. So they're not. I would say that this is an absolutely fundamental difference between Buddhism and Hinduism. I could mention many more. But I would say that if you know the Dhamma well, I think the differences and the similarities would become clear, and you could see that the two are really, they're pointing in different directions. I would say that. Is that okay? Okay, that's it. Thank you for your question.
Yeah.